A good priest buddy of mine were having a conversation the other day, and we got on the topic of favorite childhood foods. Now, this priest friend of mine is about 20 years older than me, and he grew up in the 60s and the 70s. And he said, Cody, you know what I miss that, we don't get anymore? Is when I go to a fast food restaurant, I cannot get yellow vanilla homemade ice cream. He says he really loved yellow vanilla homemade ice cream. He absolutely despises white soft serve ice cream. And I said, I think that's funny because I grew up in the 80s and the 90s when processed foods were the greatest thing in the world. And I said, if I don't have some macaroni and cheese with neon orange coloring in it, with cut up hot dogs in it, or soft serve white ice cream, or anything with a gummy texture, whether it be gummy bears, gummy worms, gummy alligators, gummy everything. That is one of the things that I crave as a child because of the different ages that I grew up in. And I think if we think back, we all have that thing that we crave as a children. Someone the other day had wacky wafers up in here, and I think that was one of the things they craved as a child was that particular candy. But we all have cravings, and that's a major theme in our gospel today is the craving, the hunger for something more. We lived off our gospel from last week, and we off the heels of the feeding of the 5,000, that great miracle that Jesus worked where he took a couple of loaves and a couple of fish, and he fed 5,000 men, probably more like 15,000 people altogether. And we're off the heels of that, and we can see that the people wanted more. But let's be honest about it. I don't think they wanted more just because they wanted more of Jesus. I think they wanted more because, they got a free meal out of it, right? I mean, if I'm going to go around a guy and he's going to give me food all the time, well, you know what? I'm going to stay around him for a long time, But that's what they got. They wanted free meal, and so they tried to follow Jesus everywhere he went. They even tried to follow him all the way to Capernaum. And when they found him, they asked for more bread and more fish, right? That's what they were asking for. But Jesus wasn't satisfied with that. That's not what he came to do. If he came just to feed the hungry, then he would probably still be here doing that to this day, and there wouldn't be any hungry. That's not what he came to do, and that's not what he was about. The initial miracle was just the sign. The initial miracle was to give them something more, right? With Jesus, there is always more. And so what does he do? He tells them about the bread of eternal life. And then he compares that to himself, right? I am the bread of life. But the truth is, those people, they weren't really hungering, they weren't craving the right thing in the beginning. They were craving just regular bread and regular fish. And that's something that we all have to live with, right? We crave things that don't really satisfy us for eternal life. A steak is a great thing, but tomorrow we'll be hungry after we eat a steak. Gummy bears and soft serve ice cream and regular yellow vanilla ice cream, those are all great things, but they don't last forever. They only last for a certain period of time. Jesus is trying to give us something that lasts forever. But sometimes we don't crave that. Sometimes we crave soft serve ice cream. Sometimes we just crave whatever these things that are just straight in front of us. But those aren't just things that we need to crave. We need to discipline ourselves to see something more, to crave after things that will endure forever, not just things that will just last for a couple minutes or a nice satisfying bite of something. Jesus is calling us to more, and we have to have the eyes to see it. We have the eyes to see that no matter how horrible of a preacher that I may be or how bad of a priest I may be, that whenever I sow those words of consecration, whenever I lift up that host and that bread and that wine, it's Jesus. It is that bread of life that we all hunger for. But if we just see it as bread, if we just see it as wine, then you know what? It'll satisfy us for 2 seconds because, let's be honest about it, our hosts over here are really, really small. Do we hunger for Jesus? Do we hunger for the real bread? Or are we just hungering for the external signs we get every once in a while by being a Catholic and being a Christian? So as we come to the table of the Lord, let us ponder that question. Are we hungering for bread? Are we hungering for bread that will last forever?